Irish guy, and Tottenham are hiring Ange Postecoglou from Celtic. We are going to hear an Australian voice on Match of the Day, which, I'm sorry, is going to be weird for our ears. As soon as this bloke starts talking to Gary Lineker, I'm automatically going to think I'm watching Neighbours with my mum. For Spurs fans, this reality for them, according to Twitter, is a nightmare. One of those nightmares where you realise you've turned up to school wearing nothing but a bin bag and a cheese omelette for a hat. Chelsea get Poch, Tottenham get Post. I mean, to be fair, Post does look like Poch. I mean, if Poch smokes 6 cigars a day and chose to spend every morning eating Burger King in his car, I mean, he looks like if he shaved Santa Claus and told him not to shower for a month. But Tottenham fans seem furious with this appointment. In the same way Celtic fans thought it was a joke to hire some bloke working in Japan. But no. The snobbery in all of you. I realise that hiring a man from Scotland, on the face of it, very underwhelming. Because over the last 25 years, every Celtic manager, these have been their next immediate clubs after leaving Celtic. Shout out if you see a European giant. Ammonia, Leicester City, Vålerenga, Bolton, Middlesbrough again, Aston Villa, Jamaica, JEF United Chiba, Greenock Morton, Reading, Stoke, Wraith Rovers, Brighton, Hibernian, and Lille Strong. Lads, these ex-Celtic blokes were being employed in their new jobs to replace absolute tactical wet cabbages like Dougie Friedman, Henning Berg, and David O'Leary. Someone who belongs in a Wallace and Gromit cartoon, but Postecoglou. He's walking into a club who were in the Champions League final 4 years ago. This guy is replacing Antonio Conte, who replaced Jose Mourinho. I mean, just forget about that, Santo. I mean, he really did look like Santa Claus. Yeah, back in 2019, if I had shown Tottenham fans a photo of this man's face, they'd think he was just a toilet cleaner who'd just been arrested for eating his mum. I mean, every photo of him looks like a mugshot. Imagine telling any of them that this unknown geezer coaching in Japan would soon get the Tottenham job. It would be like me telling you that Johnny Depp's next wife is going to be a horse. Look, I get it, okay? I get it. Look at this man's CV. Compare that to Mourinho, who recently had the Tottenham job. I mean, when this guy was winning trebles in Italy, Postecoglou had failed with the Australia youth teams, was bullied on live TV, had to fetch a job in the Greek 3rd division with Panathinaikos, a club that sounds like a brand of ice cream. Lads, Conte won 7 league titles at Juventus. This bloke used to manage Brunswick Juventus, who used to be called Whittlesea Zebras. Sounds like something you'd find on the set of The Lion King. Lads, Postecoglou is replacing a man who managed Italy, Juventus, Chelsea, and Conte replaced a man who coached Valencia and Porto, and he had replaced the former boss of Real Madrid and Manchester United, the 2 biggest clubs in the world. That is the succession line of recent Tottenham managers, replacing experienced coaches who'd already been at massive European super clubs. But lads, throughout Postecoglou's career, the men who he directly replaced in each of his jobs, here's what their collective CV looked like. Those blokes coach footballing heavyweights like Gippsland Falcon, Sydney, Croatia, Marconi Fairfield, Papua New Guinea, Fiji under-20s, Kokalispor, Urawa Red Diamonds, Ammonia. I mean, one of them was the Shamrock Rovers assistant coach. This is weird. I know it is. But lads, I'm gonna say this. There is a huge European snobbery towards the rest of the world. I'm telling you now, it is a miracle that Postecoglou is in a position where he's being offered this job. Not because he doesn't deserve it. Not because he's not a good coach, but because if you work on a different continent, managing teams in the Asian Champions League, you have about as much chance of being noticed by a Premier League club as I do of having a picnic on the moon. I mean, go back 10 years and there was about as much chance of me eating a sandwich whilst an alien tickled my armpit as there was of this scruffy bloke getting the Spurs gig. I mean, this man was born in Greece before his family emigrated to Australia by boat when he was 5. If he had just stayed in Greece, it would have been way easier to carve out a career in European football. And yeah, instead of sounding like Toadie off Neighbours, he would have instead been some gruff, imposing Greek who probably eats cement for breakfast. Lads, I meant that it's still gonna be so bizarre hearing an Australian on the Match of the Day. We're not really exposed to that accent very much. Even the most famous Australians usually cover up their accents anyway. I mean, Christ of all, did anyone know that the blokes who play Thor, Wolverine, the Joker, and Captain Barbossa are all from Australia? Even the 2 most powerful elves from Lord of the Rings are from Australia. I didn't know that. If you didn't have a playing career in England, then an Australian coach has borderline 0 chance of getting a Premier League job. Lads, here is the proof. Harry Kewell, top footballer, yes, but probably has the tactics of ant soup, and yet he was given the management gig at the oldest club in world football. A football giant who once inspired Juventus' shirt, a club rooted in history and tradition, despite Sol Campbell once using their dignity as toilet paper. Yeah, Kewell got that Notts County job. I mean, if Postecoglou had wanted that gig back in 2010, if he had walked into the chairman's offices and offered his services to Meadow Lane, they would treat him the same way you would treat that weird middle-aged man who waits outside a primary school with a camera and a bag of caramels. Yeah, pretty sure the Notts County chairman would be quickly phoning the police, despite Postecoglou having thrice Hugh's tactical knowledge, to the point where he now just employs Harry to, what, make him tea and fetch him sausage rolls? Football is so unfair. Postecoglou was on course to spending his entire career being unknown in Europe. Lads, do you know how unlikely all of this is? If Eddie Howe had just accepted that Celtic job in 2021, then you would all know about as much about this man as any bloke born in 1562. I mean, that was a bad month for Ange, because in June 2021, he'd already been turned down by his boyhood club, AK Athens. Yeah, I told you he was weird. That's how low his stock was. He was failing a job interview for a gig that Gus Poyet qualified for. But lads, Postecoglou plays such beautiful football. He said,
"My motivation is always to produce teams my dad would enjoy watching."
Sounds so sweet and gooey. Sounds like it was lifted from the script of The Notebook. But lads, he has never ever swayed from his philosophy, ever. And lads, can you imagine a footballing mad, up-and-coming coach with a Greek family getting up at 1 AM to watch Greece win Euro 2004 in an Australian bar? When that final whistle went in 2004, Postecoglou probably celebrated by drinking 12 pints, getting a tribal sleeve tattoo, and choosing to marry his cousin who got amnesia in a train crash after having your dad's baby in the sea. My only reference point for Australia is what I learned at home and away. I mean, that Greece win was around the same time where Postecoglou was failing to get Australia youth teams to qualify for the World Cup and was literally getting told to resign on live television. He could have betrayed his principles there and then and just used that Greece miracle win as a blueprint and just become the Aussie Sam Allardyce. Just horrible tackles and sneaking goals from corner kicks. But no, he's instead always chosen to play an exciting, attacking, entertaining brand of football. Always. The man looks like he would sooner eat his own cat's fur with a spoon than to just be the Sean Dyche from Asia. I mean, lad, Brighton's first choice to replace Graham Potter was not Roberto De Zerbi, it was Postecoglou. Well lads, why has there never been a single Asian manager ever seen in the Premier League? Is it because Asian coaches have the tactics of scrambled egg? No. It's because there is a complete ignorance towards football over there. I mean, the current Australia manager, Graham Arnold, what he did at the World Cup in Qatar was incredible. He has been a top manager for years, and yet all he ever got from England was a job offer at Sheffield United 10 years ago when they were in League One. He had turned them down, calling them prehistoric. They have Fred Flintstone on the wing. Nobody here ever pays any attention to managers from Asia. Christ, well, back in 1996, Arsenal appointed Arsene Wenger, who turned out to be one of the greatest tactical minds of all time, but because he was coming from Nagoya Grampus 8, I think most pundits thought his appointment was about as exciting as eating catstick with a fork. Lads, to show how exciting Postecoglou is, go back to July 2019. Man City beat his Yokohama team in a friendly win, sure, 3-1, but lads, it was the Japanese team who dominated possession with 58% of the ball against Pep Guardiola. Lads, I know it was pre-season, but look at that starting 11. That was good enough to start a Champions League final? Well, minus the goalie with wrist made of cheese. Lads, Postecoglou's team had 607 passes to City's 455. They had an 87% pass accuracy compared to City's 86. I'm sorry, City had players like Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, John Stones, Bernardo Silva and David Silva in the team, and Yokohama had more passes? Is this a joke? If Postecoglou could outpass City with footballers from Japan, what can he do with a Premier League squad? The only reason he was ever noticed by Celtic in the first place is because Yokohama Marinos are Man City's feeder club. If it wasn't for that tenuous link to Britain, then this bloke would be left to rot in Asia for the rest of his career. Japan would have been his football prison, destined to spend the rest of his life trying out with teams like Gamba Osaka and Kashima Antlers, and begging people like Iniesta for a selfie. There will be world-class managers buried on other continents, and yet Europe, so set in their ways and stubborn, will never discover them. This is supposed to be the biggest league in the world. Are you really telling me there aren't men in Asia who are better managers than Gary O'Neill? I have no doubt there'll be a manager in India who is good enough to win the European Champions League. I mean, there's probably actual Eskimos who have the potential to be better than Alex Ferguson. Nobody was ever going to give Postecoglou a second look. I mean, try and Google any job offers that this man ever had from Britain before Celtic. I mean, he was once favourite for the Rangers job, but that's literally it. Lads, Man City have so many feeder clubs. They're like a big fat huge pig and just letting a bunch of piglets drink its sour milk until their stomach looks like a punctured balloon. But I promise you, look at the coaches in charge of New York City, Melbourne City, Montevideo City, Girona FC, Mumbai City, Lamel SK, Palermo, Bahia FC, Club Bolivar. I mean, these unknown coaches like Rado Vidosic, Des Buckingham, Steve Bold, and Renato Paiva. If they do well, they might get noticed and be fast-tracked into a top job via that Man City shortcut. But everyone else in those leagues, it doesn't matter how well they do. There could be a mini Mourinho coaching in India, and yet even the likes of Barnsley would sneer down their nose. Lads, for example, that Des Buckingham is working miracles with Mumbai City and setting records, but in England, he was only ever Stoke City under-23 coach. Just told to work with children before getting the New Zealand under-20s job, which probably just consists of banning rugby balls from training. I mean, I would imagine trying to wean Kiwi kids off rugby is probably like trying to make Gollum forget about the ring. But lads, I will put it out there. In the same way Rob Edwards has gone from underage coach to Luton miracle worker, Buckingham of Mumbai City, a former goalie born in Oxford, he is probably Premier League worthy. And yet we'll never know because of the snobbery. To show how allergic the Premier League is to any manager who doesn't immediately conform as a top 5 European League club manager, then next season, assuming Roy Hodgson is not invited back, Postecoglou will be the only Premier League manager who's actually coached at the World Cup. The actual World Cup, Steve Cooper, not the World Cup for babies. I mean, isn't that tournament supposed to be the pinnacle of sport? Isn't that why Pele was hailed as the GOAT? And yet the Premier League's only man who's managed in that tournament is still being treated as some subhuman leper who stinks of Dobby's feet. So what if you look at David Unsworth's twin? He is a top manager. Lads, besides Roy Hodgson, and not counting the interims like Hiddink and Advocat, then the last time a Premier League club appointed a manager on a permanent contract and who'd actually taken part in a World Cup was Man City hiring Sven-Göran Eriksson 16 years ago. Before that, Sunderland hiring Mick McCarthy in 2003. I mean, come on, how weird is that? Let's be real, as a footballer, Postecoglou was a non-entity, some pudding defender for South Melbourne, but don't forget, he was weirdly coached by Ferenc Puskás. That's when I finding out that Bill the mechanic from Grimsby was once given singing lessons by Elvis Presley. But lads, Postecoglou has adopted Puskás' 4-3-3 formation. And so for those of you who think that this Aussie lad just scribbled his amateur tactics on a napkin whilst watching Home and Away, no, he was literally taught firsthand by one of the greatest footballers of all time. Show Ange some respect. Oh, really? Ange? He sounds like someone's nan. Lads, Postecoglou was a rubbish football player, yes, but that does not matter. Football in England used to be about just giving the manager job to formerly world-class players. I mean, even Aston Villa and Everton were recently guilty of that. It's a bit different now. The start of next season is probably going to have the fewest managers who are actually good footballers. Honestly, in August, of the 20 managers beginning the season, the one who was the best player is that Burnley. If you were to make a 4-team, 5-a-side tournament consisting of all the modern Premier League managers, tries to have the competition would have a collection of first touches that would make pigeons look good. The likes of what? Steve Cooper, Eddie Howe, Thomas Frank, Rob Edwards, Unai Emery, Paul Heckingbottom, Jurgen Klopp, Marco Silva. They were about as good at football as I am wrestling Polar Bears. But lads, I said disappointment would be a disaster. But not for Tottenham. For Celtic. The appointment of Postecoglou was a masterstroke. To be fair, the fact that he interviewed Eddie Howe too. Forget the Neil Lennon appointment. The bloke before that was Brendan Rodgers. So the Celtic recruitment process has been good. Credit to both Rodgers and Howe. After their Celtic job interviews, they went on to get Premier League jobs, reach cup finals, and battle it out for the Champions League. Postecoglou is similarly going to be fighting for the top 4 with Spurs, but their luck is going to run out. I know, I already know that Celtic will desperately want Graham Potter. I mean, with Rodgers, Howe, and Postecoglou, they all play pretty football, and they all had average playing careers. So there is a huge pattern there. They will want Potter so bad. You'd swear the Celtic chairman was Ginny Weasley. But does anyone really go from Chelsea to Celtic? And instead, that fella looks like he's just going to take Jim Ratcliffe's money to go and work for Nice, which is just a collection dump for sad British expats who now have the self-confidence of a depressed spider. I mean, David Moyes is the favourite for the Celtic job, but do those fans really want a man who once turned down the Celtic job to instead choose Sunderland? It's going to be someone like Scott Brown. Losing Postecoglou will force the board to panic. They'll turn to this former Celtic legend, despite him having a 33% win record at Fleetwood Town. I mean, this fella looked like a skinhead psycho for those 15 years in Celtic's midfield, but I mean, since growing his hair, if anything, he looks even scarier. He looks like someone who probably strangled dinosaurs in the bath. I mean, right now, weirdly, he coaches Phoenix Patterson, who I strangely saw live in the flesh in an Irish League game last year, scoring against Treaty United. But I mean, is Brown really ready to manage Celtic? Once Postecoglou goes to Spurs, then Rangers under Michael Beale, who by the way has a 79% win record in charge, they are going to eat Scottish football for tea. But as for Tottenham, just watch. Postecoglou is going to be class. Anyway, that's it. Let me know what do you think. Let me know in the comments section below. What do you think about all this? Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give a like, share, subscribe, as always. I'll talk to you in a while.